Welcome, everybody, to What Would It Cost Florida with your host, Niels Decker, and our special guest, Andrew Perrie, a man, and I would say, not just in the real estate, a personality, a real personality. I'm looking forward to being with you here today and chatting all things real estate and everything around it.
Super stoked. Let's go.
Awesome. Welcome, Andrew. And I think I'm just thinking about this now. You've been, I think, the first guest that's been on What Would It Cost in Toronto, What Would It Cost here in Florida. So,
yes,
welcome.
That's an amazing honor to be a part of, the Spark ecosystem. And honestly, it's, I feel at home with you boys. It's been great so far.
Yeah, definitely, and so at home that we brought you along, and you've been here for the full week.
Yeah, we came in on Sunday, and I flew out with everybody, and we've been staying in the same house, which is cool. I feel like I'm back in college again. Eating good. Getting those steaks in, the red meat, hitting the gym. We're doing it all.
A real boys trip, almost.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And I think you've been to every gym now, if possible, in Fort Lauderdale as well with Nikki.
Yeah, well, you know what? We did the Titans gym. I love it. It's like a gritty, old
clang and bang.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I love it. But I totally forgot I've got an LA Fitness membership that works everywhere. Yeah. And so maybe we'll check that out next.
Check that out. Well, you won't
Nothing
have to...
against Titan, by the way. It's a great gym. I'm even going to get those skinny little nipple viewing shirts. I'm going to hit up the beach and do some push-ups right on Muscle Beach, right?
Amazing. Yeah, you won't have to twist Nick's arm to go to a different gym and check that out. So
no, he's open to do 3 days. So.
Yeah. Yeah, he's all for it. That's awesome. And I think he was taking what you guys were going to, was sauna, cryo, what was it afterwards?
So it's a cryogenic chamber. So, I thought I was going to go in there, come out in the year 3000. It's something out of a movie. Like you look at it, it's all the smoke. And then you go in and you just basically get frozen for 3 minutes. And, I'm like, so how cold is this? And she's like, minus 202. So I said, minus 202, what the hell is that? Yeah. And like come out like a popsicle?
Yeah.
And no, and it's so, because you guys are Fahrenheit, right? So to me, I don't even know what that is in Celsius, but it's damn cold is what I know. Yeah. And she's like, everybody gets to pick their favorite song. What do you want to hear? I'm like, let's throw on some Morgan Wallen. She's like, interesting choice. Yeah. Like Nick's putting on AC/DC or something or Queen, and I'm coming, or Ozzy Osbourne, and I'm like, just give me some Morgan Wallen and I'm fine.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
But man, I feel great after that.
Yeah,
it was a great experience, and I don't know if they have those in Toronto or Niagara yet, but I'm suggesting to Nick and the boys that they should put it in their new office.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that's going to pop up soon in one of the offices for sure.
Well, it's cool. They have like this big stainless steel, like I don't even know what you would call it, like a canister or something. It's like 10 feet tall, and it's where all the nitro sits, I guess, because I'm sure that's how they they chill it, right? So it's an interesting process, and I'm glad that I got to test it out.
Yeah, and I think the biggest impact is just being able to move lactic acid and get you going for your third, fourth workout of the day.
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. Especially in this Florida heat, man. Wow.
Yeah, it's a nice, refreshing one. It's beauty. I've experienced it as well. So, what's been the plan this week? What I've seen you guys here and there, but tell us a little bit what's on the agenda. What are you guys up to?
So my goal in real estate, and people introduce me, and it's all right if they don't know me, right? I'll give them that one, but they always introduce me as a realtor. And it's not that I find that offensive, because I don't. It's not what I do. I am a licensed realtor, yes, and I sell and list properties, and I work with some of my close clients and referrals. But for the most part, I'm running the business. Yeah. And I'm always trying to think of innovative ways to grow the business. I feel that real estate focusing on, because before it was, no, you got to focus on your localized area. Yeah. You got to become the local expert, which I believe is true. However, currently I'm number one, our team's number one in Niagara. Yeah. And that,
spinning out.
man, there's just a Lamborghini doing a donut outside. I love this country, man. I
Yes.
got to come here more often.
Yeah.
So anyways, it's not enough for
Yeah.
me to get to even to number one in our area. That's not what it's all about.
Yeah.
I never got into real estate to be top agent or top team. I got into real estate to start building an empire. And the only way to, in my opinion, to expand your growth, expand your brand, and really start to create that empire or legacy for your life is to start expanding into other markets. So I started in Ontario, Canada, in Niagara-on-the-Lake. We have our office there with our partners, Mac Inc., Jesse and Evan McDonald, as well as my team, the Fine Estates team.
Yeah.
And then we branched off into Muskoka, Canada, which is the cottage country of Ontario. And, you know, a lot of famous people go there. A lot of famous people live in Niagara-on-the-Lake, too. And it was just, you know, all my clients just made sense to go there because all my clients had a summer home in Muskoka and they have, you know, a house in Niagara-on-the-Lake. And then I'm like, so what do you guys do in the winter? They're like, oh, well, we spent 6 months in Florida. So it was almost a no-brainer to think that if I'm looking to expand the business, expand the brand internationally, that Florida is the natural growth path.
Yeah.
So the way it works, as you know, is, you know, it's easier to get amongst the markets in the States by first, you know, either starting an LLC here, buying a property, and slowly starting to put more investments into the Florida economy to make things a little bit easier when you want to go and establish yourself and a brand in a new area.
Yeah. And
so that's what we're doing. And I'm looking at properties.
And being able to understand it from your experience first to know what you're talking about and being able to say, hey, I've gone through that.
Exactly. And I love that you said that because that's exactly how my business is 90% agent-to-agent referrals. And people who've listened to me have heard me say that many times. And the reason why is because I'm in vacation areas. I'm in destinations. Niagara-on-the-Lake is the wine country capital of Canada. Muskoka's cottage capital of Canada. So these are areas that somebody wants to send me their business because we know how to sell the lifestyle of that community. In Fort Lauderdale and in Miami and Florida is just a natural progression. So as I was out looking at properties, I got to really understand the best subdivisions, you know, what works better for families, what works better for seniors, what looks better for a group of guys that want to go and hang out for the week or a group of girls. And, you know, so it was a really eye-opening experience. And, you know, as we move forward in purchasing that investment property, we can then move forward to look at, you know, how do we set up our team here, our brand, and really elevate our client experience to that, you know, that next level.
Yeah, very cool to hear. And I want to go back a couple steps. I say it all the time. Realtors, look for a hyper local one. Or look for someone, ideally someone that had diapers on in that area where they're selling. Not always the case, but if someone's been there and is sold and understands the area, I'm a big fan of that. The other piece that you mentioned is that for you understood your role, but maybe take people a little bit back too that haven't met you, and the viewers and listeners. For you, was that something that then was a quick awareness, or was something that you went into right out the gate and you're like, hey, that's where I excel and that's where I'm going, or how did that evolve?
So for all the Americans who are watching this podcast, I worked for LA Fitness. And if you know LA Fitness, if you've worked for LA Fitness, their sales training is unmatched. It taught me so much. And what it taught me is that not only am I really good at building relationships, but I'm also great at understanding and becoming self-aware of my skills, talents, what I'm good at, what I'm not good at, which then led me to learn more about myself as a leader. So, you know, when I'm back home and I'm starting off in my career and I'm selling, and what I realized my biggest takeaway from the majority of my sales is that I'm not a good salesman. I'm a good relationship builder. And that led me to think that, okay, so if my clients are enjoying my experience or their experience with me, maybe I can help other agents develop that type of an outlook when it comes to their sales career. And that's how the team kind of started. It was a little rocky at first. You know, I got a team full of women, and learning how to navigate that process, coming from usually running sales teams full of men.
Yeah.
I had to, you know, take a outside look at my approach, and I realized that, and again, this comes back to self-awareness, that I had to hire somebody who I felt would do a better job. So I hired my VP of sales, Crystal Simons, and she stepped in as the sales manager, as you know, and she's as a communicator between me and the rest of the people, and it's been really great. And so I'm replicating that type of a process off of the LA Fitness model. So you have a GM who's responsible for sales, and then you have a director of operations who's responsible for the day-to-days. And that's how we're able to replicate this team or corporate style to our real estate business, to replicate it and foster that same culture in other markets. Yeah,
and it's beauty to hear that, because, you know, it's so often that big block from small to medium to big, and that flow. Right, and having those structures in place. And ultimately, you know, you'll see it with the frustration with some agents or some people that are moving in sales, where there's gaps in communication, in delivering white glove, and being able to cater to certain needs of clients that they need. And you know, when I hear someone say, I'm so busy, or you know, right away I'm looking at someone that's wearing 5 hats at once. Literally, I'm looking at them like, take that hat off, take this hat off, take that hat off.
Exactly.
And being able to grow together and put people in the places where they excel is actually a thing of beauty, because they love what they're doing as well, because they know they're good at it.
It's I remember a few instances where, because I also run a group of I'm one of the moderators, of a group that's 30,000 realtors. So with 30,000 realtors, you get a lot. It's called Real Estate Hacks. So we have a lot of hacks, a lot of tips, a lot of advice, but you know, we also have a lot of rants. Right. So we're trying to minimize that, delete all those style of posts. But there's a few people that, you know, I just remember them posting about how stressed they were, how, you know, they have to. And everybody in the comments, no, you got to service your client. You got to do this. You got to go, you know, cut their grass. You got to, and then, you know, people are promoting themselves as, I go and shovel their driveway. It's like, why? I'll do that too. But I'm paying for somebody else to do that. It's where, you know, you don't have to. I feel the average realtor gets too caught up, and I say this a lot. The average realtor gets caught up in what I like to call a service industry. I don't necessarily consider myself in the service industry. I consider myself in the business industry, where I have to run the play to help service my clients. Yes, but that's not what I'm doing. We have people that fulfill those duties for us. And so that's why I try to take the word service out of all of my presentations, because we're here to provide a white glove service, yes, but it's more of an experience.
And I think you mentioned a little bit, so, you know, some people might say, okay, well, that's great, but what happened in between? And you mentioned a little bit, it was a rocky road, and for those listening, let's unpack that a little bit and see, you know. And obviously entrepreneurship is definitely never this straight line, is the squiggly and all the things you've seen. So let's talk about that.
So my first team that I started 2.5 years into the business, it was rushed. I didn't have any capital. We couldn't afford to support the agents, and it was a team of young guys that didn't feel they were getting enough, and it folded after 3 months. And it was a big ego gut punch, you know, especially when we were promoting it so heavily online. But that taught me exactly what I needed to focus on. And then when I started my team, my Fine Estates team 2.0, I guess you could say, the goal was wrong. I wanted to bring on people that could help with my overflow of business. And it was great, but there was a lack of structure, a lack of communication, a lack of, call it, you know, vision, where we had to adapt super quick. Because when I started, it was just in the beginning of COVID. So like 2020 is when we started the second edition of the team. And we had tons of business, tons of leads, and what we weren't necessarily... I was always good at client appreciation, but when you get that busy, we were letting it all fall to the wayside. So our returning clientele, we were lucky and humbled if they came back to us, in which a lot did, but a lot didn't. And, you know, we'd be like, you see them on Facebook. Did you just buy a new house? Yeah. Oh, yeah, Andrew, I guess you guys were too busy
I'm not cutting your grass anymore.
Yeah. I'm like, holy smokes. So what I realized was, okay, no matter how busy you get, you have to invest in a follow-up system, in a appreciation system. So what we did is we started simple. We took all of our clients, all of our leads, and we know all of their birthdays, and we got them, for the Canadians listening, at Tim Hortons. It's a Canadian coffee company. I see you guys have some in the States, by the way. But anyways, so what we would do is we send them a $5 Tim's card on their birthday. And that's how the response that we got was so amazing and overwhelming that I was like, just something as simple as a handwritten note with a Tim's card. And what I realized is like, okay, so we really have to focus on how we treat our clients. Obviously, we crush it during the actual transactional process, but what happens when the deal's closed? And that was the biggest shift in our business. And now we have our clients call us when they want something. Yeah,
that's awesome. And then what I hear as well, and I think what was huge when you start to understand that when the file is closed or the home has been closed and bought and they get the key, it's almost that's when everything starts. Everything prior, you know, everything is the hustle and bustle and the, you know, there's excitement, but when that closes, that's when the relationship really starts. And I think that's what you're pointing to, which you really turned over and then made a huge impact.
I agree. And to package it up, it would be majority, and I think about this all the time. There's a set of realtors that feel or believe or have this deep conviction that your business is posting on social media. And then you have another group or another camp that says, okay, my business is setting up showings, writing up offers, firming up the deal. And then you have other camps that you just suggested where the work starts when the property closes. I love that. It's something that I've never envisioned the way you just set it out, but it's something that I'm always constantly thinking about.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think too, you know, what you're probably experiencing, you can speak to it, is, you know, that growth from small to medium to large. Where do you continue to look to be able to service where there is that touch, where it's still a personal touch? And I think that's going to be always a challenge too as businesses grow, to be able to say, you know, where are we so big that maybe you lose that, you know, some people call it in the words of it's a family feeling, or, you know, the personability. So we have my personal thoughts and opinions about each client in our CRM system, so that, you know, I have what different groups of clients, right? You know, some are our best friends, and some, you know, hey, we had a great time together, but, you know, we don't keep in communication, or nobody responds to our invitations, or they don't come to the client events, which is fine, because we find most of those are the ones that refer us. It's so weird how that works, but not to say that people that come to our client parties don't refer us. It's just, it's so weird. The people that you don't think are going to, you know, be thinking about you all the time are the ones that send you the business sometimes. But where I'm going with that is that you need to be able to create a process that emulates the way you feel about your clients and the way the clients know that you feel about them. Because I'll tell you, there's some people out there that spend, you know, one full day a month and they'll personally handwrite the cards. I unfortunately don't do that, but my team knows exactly what I feel about each client, and they can emulate the way I would respond in a handwritten letter or appreciation. Don't get me wrong.
I do have that set of clients, let's call it 30 of my really best clients, that I do that personal, I do the calls, I do the handwritten letters, I stop by their house, I call them, I text them.
Yeah.
And it's a process that is important to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think too, as your teams grow, that, you know, being able to manage and instilling that culture into them, so that I think what I've heard of numbers as well is like you usually have about 150 people throughout your lifetime that you kind of have in your circle where you're talking to, you know, and as you're growing, let's say you have 1,000 clients, it's going to be impossible to do that many outreach all the time.
Of course.
Right? But I think what I'm hearing too is that when that culture then rubs off of people and you have people on your team that are doing, then you start adding to all that, which is great.
Of course.
Yeah.
In the way that and so here's the interesting thing is that out of all the referrals and all the business that I get, I'm always the one that reaches out first. Yeah. I'm always the one that does the discovery call, and I'm always the one that starts that relationship off.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because if you're coming to Niagara-on-the-Lake or Muskoka, the values are fairly high.
Yeah.
And most of my business are not, well, my sellers are from this area. But most of my buyers are people that have never heard of Niagara-on-the-Lake before. They've never been here, or they don't know anything about the real estate market or the lifestyle. So I always love getting on that phone call and saying everything that I love about Niagara-on-the-Lake, explaining and showing why the lifestyle equals the value that you're paying for these houses.
And then transitioning to here, what have you experienced so far here, what you've seen?
What I really love is that there's a strong relative vision that I get about Fort Lauderdale and Niagara-on-the-Lake. Yeah. So Fort Lauderdale's a big city. Like, we're downtown right now. Niagara-on-the-Lake does not have this.
Yeah.
But the feel, the style of the homes, and just the overall, you know, I see people out running. I see people at the gym at 7 o'clock. I see people playing golf, tennis. It reminds me of exactly how my clients would live. Yeah. And they would come to Niagara-on-the-Lake. They're looking for, hey, does this town have any events? Yeah. Does this town have any churches? Does this town have any
cryo chambers
or ukulele groups?
Yeah.
Like, I just got this really strong community-driven culture here, and that's like all of the markets that I serve.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I say it often too. It's you know, I feel like when people wake up, they know it's a new opportunity, new day, and they're ready to go get it.
Right.
And I love that atmosphere. And
everybody's in shape here.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know what they're talking about, Americans.
Yeah.
Everybody's in shape here.
Yeah. They're putting it on the map. I love it, in the healthy lifestyle. But
it's great. Rocco's Tacos.
Yes. What's the remaining of the week? What's on the schedule? What are the plans? Or
so the remaining week for me, I did majority of everything I set out to do in the first few days. Yeah. So now I'm going to do a little bit more exploring. Do a little more eating.
Couple more dinners.
And we're still lining up some additional showings. I think I want to see some properties in Miami too, and just explore the actual differences between Miami, Florida, and Orlando, or Fort Lauderdale and Orlando.
Yeah, beautiful. I love it. Awesome. So asking the question here, what would it cost? What have you been running? Has it been on the purchase or on rental properties? Let's get into that.
So the interesting thing, and the reason why I wanted to unpack all of the three markets that I mentioned, Miami, Orlando, and Fort Lauderdale, is because I really wanted to be able to compare, what is the initial investment down? Yeah. What are we making back? Is there any work to do? Is it furnished? What are the amenities? So Orlando, we were looking at anywhere between 5 to 10 bedrooms, and you're looking at anywhere between $550 to $900. Yeah. And these properties in Orlando, let's call it a 6 or 7 bedroom for $700. That $700,000 home comes with a pool. It's got usually furnished. It's got a clubhouse where there's a pool, a bar, a movie theater, an arcade, a golf course, and it's all within that subdivision. So you get yourself a golf cart and you just bring the kids, and it's great, right? You're close to Disney World. And then you come to Fort Lauderdale, where you get something a little bit more higher at $850. Sometimes it's fully done, sometimes it's not, sometimes it's fully furnished, but you got a pool with that price. And it's more of you feel at home.
Yeah.
Where in Orlando, you feel like, okay, I'm on vacation, I'm at a resort. Like, when you go to Mexico, Dominican, something like that, Bahamas, you're at a resort. Where Fort Lauderdale, I felt way more at home, and I could see myself actually living here.
Yeah.
So what's important is, when I invest in properties, is that not only am I investing something that is going to make a good return for me, so it's numbers, but it's also something for me, something that I can use. So all my investments are in locations that I can go and use them whenever I want as well.
Yeah, and it comes down to personal preference and what aligns with what you're looking for. And as well, like you tying it back to what you said earlier, that what you can then relate to and experience back to clients and people that are interested.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if you look at, let's call it 700,000 or we even looked at one at 630, and it was great. So let's just say $630,000. You have condo or maintenance fees anywhere between $300 to $600, depending on what they offer for you or do for you. Do they cut your grass? Do they clean your pool? Do they rent it out for you? And then you've got your property management on top of that. So you're still netting, if in Orlando, anywhere between $4,000 to $6,000. And in Fort Lauderdale, your numbers are quite similar from what I heard. And all the financial projections that we're getting, and you're looking at anywhere between $100,000 to $140,000 a year. Yeah, incredible. In Canada, you don't have that.
No.
I just saw on Instagram before we hopped on the podcast. One of my investor friends were, I'm not saying bragging, but presenting, what a successful job they did, and 2 weeks earlier, I would have said the same thing. Guy bought a house in Thorold for $700,000.
Yeah.
There's 5 bedrooms or 6 bedrooms at $500 a piece. After everything, he's netting $300.
Yeah.
And it's this little shack, and he's like, $300 profit, baby.
Yeah.
And I agree.
And the appreciation conversation is huge then for us.
Of course. And I've always told my clients, I said, look, it's not about the cash flow. And now I come here, I'm like, what the hell am I talking about? It's not about the cash flow. You come here, you're literally 10, 15, 20xing your income than buying in Ontario. Ontario's a great place to buy for appreciation. Like, it's great. We're at a plateau now, but we're going to go up again. But in Fort Lauderdale and Miami, and I'll get into Miami numbers and after this, you're literally 10 to 20xing that investment. And what's really cool is about Fort Lauderdale and Orlando is okay. Fort Lauderdale's a little higher, but if you wanted somewhere to go that was a little less, resort style, then this is the perfect place. And it's a city, but I don't feel like it's a city. I feel like it's a safe community that does not feel overwhelming. But if you want to go to Miami, we were talking to our realtor Killian there, and he said his place roughly $1 million. So as opposed to Fort Lauderdale, that you're in and around $800,000, you're at $1 million, but you're like 10, 15, $20,000 a month. Which is like insane to me.
And I think the biggest conversation that I'm having with people too is that obviously you're seasoned. You've been in the experience. You're actually selling the experience as well. You understand the numbers. You've seen the numbers. But for people that are listening as well, if this is your first one, I always say, get your feet through the door. Start with something. Get comfortable with what you got to carry, what it can possibly make. Everyone has got a different comfort level. Start somewhere. From there, you can grow. And I think that's, when we talk about these big returns, there's also, higher expenses.
Right.
So that sometimes is out of comfort, but I always say build up to that. Don't jump the gun. So,
but look at the expenses that you're paying in Canada. 3 times as much. Not only do you have, higher utilities like gas, electric, electric hydro,
Yeah.
which in Canada that's your water and your electricity. It's insane.
Yeah.
It's insane. You're spending on some properties thousands of dollars a month for this.
Yeah.
And it's wild.
Yeah.
You know, we toured a property and the listing agent was there. She's like, yeah, they pay, they have a few small solar panels, but yeah, they pay $20 a month for electricity, and they pay like $30 for gas. I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah.
We're like $300 minimum for some of our houses for gas and electricity. So it's wild, man. And what I think the important thing is that if you're coming here and looking to build that portfolio, how fast you can grow your portfolio because of that extra income that you're netting every month, and you can roll that into another company or into another property. And you know what I really love about Florida and the United States is that you can go sell or use your gains in, you know, once you've sold your property, to go purchase another property, as long as it's in 1 year, without it being taxed. In Canada, you have to pay 50% capital gains. I sold my fourplex to go buy a larger property, an 8-unit building, and these units were going to be focused on not lower income, but affordable housing. And the government still said, no, we want 50% of your earnings. I had to write them a check for $100,000.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, it's wild.
And all I'm trying to do is provide housing for people who can't afford it, because our government's not doing anything to help them.
Yeah.
You know, they bought a huge building in Toronto and left it vacant for 3 years. Now it's crumbling. They got to tear it down. That would never happen in the States.
No.
And that's what I love about coming here, is that they have such a passion for helping people, where the biggest misconception about Canadians is that we're all nice and we all want to help people. No, when you come to, you know, the southern states, that's where the real hospitality is.
Yeah.
And I love it. I love Canada too. Salt of the earth, everybody that I know up there.
Yeah.
But when it comes from a government state of mind, I'd rather put my money in Florida.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, that really came above water during COVID. And, you know, we can see how that all turned out. So, big difference.
That's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah, a whole nother podcast. It's amazing. For the listeners listening, where can they find you?
Best place is Instagram at the Andrew Perrie. That's all. I answer my DMs. I follow back. I do everything. So, and I do it all myself. I don't outsource that.
I love it. Amazing. Thank you, everyone, for listening. And until the next What Would It Cost Florida episode.